man-to-man, one-on-one coverage because the safety rolls to Jefferson's side.
This guy's like becoming like a circus act. Like he could do this.
Von Rock caught a ball with his thighs. We didn't even talk about that.
It was more of with his ass.
If he throws a good ball, this is a running, catching touchdown untouched.
Right.
To become who we want to be as individuals, and at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense.
Like KP does like these flips after every win. And I'm like just waiting for him to do his flips.
You can tune in anywhere that you guys follow us on social media.
Shout out to Jalen Ramsey. He sucks.
Welcome to the Practice Squad Podcast, episode 44. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark. There's a little bit of minicamp drama going on right now. A couple other football topics to talk about. But Mark, how we doing?
I'm good, John. I'm good. Just another week closer to just not having these slow. I mean, the NBA Finals, I'm repping the Nuggets hat. No, I'm not a bandwagon. I've had this hat long before.
I specifically asked him if he owned that hat prior to this.
Check prior episodes. I've worn this before, far before they were NBA champions. I'm not even really a Nuggets fan. I just like the hat. It's kind of a sick hat.
It goes nuts for sure.
And so yeah, that's why I'm wearing it to honor them. I do like Jokic. And I do like Jamal Murray, and then whatever. NBA's done. That shit show circus,
like excitement and answers in his post game presser were
he doesn't incredible. Care at all, dude. He does, but he's just like he's just somebody who just does his job.
Time to go.
Job is done. I can rest now. He's like Thanos. You know what I mean?
Literally, and I mean one of the more dominant finals that I remember all the way through the playoffs, really. I mean, the Nuggets, I don't think flinched at a single team the entire way, which is
swept King James. Looked really good against the Suns, who everybody had as like a team that people thought would win, especially with them getting KD and stuff. Jokic just is like, he's hard to conquer, man. It doesn't matter who he just is he's so slow and methodical, but he's such a technician in what he does. Such a good passer for being a big man. So hard to guard, and he's actually a sneaky good defender as well. So he's just one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league right now, and might be for a while because he doesn't get injured, hasn't shown a lot of injuries, and he plays really smart
most
basketball.
Of the regular season too.
Yeah,
right?
He plays incredible minutes.
Drama queen thing.
No, he's not. He's what the NBA needs to become to hang on, because the NBA is on a downhill climb. Players have too much power. They take too many games off. The regular season's a joke. And honestly, some of the playoffs are a joke. You need more guys like Jokic who play every single night, give what they have, and just do what they're supposed to do. That's what makes the sport so fun to watch.
And then you mentioned the Suns too, and in Detroit news, right? We just hired their former head coach Monty Williams. Yeah. And so the vibe that I get is that he is very well respected, and Pistons fans are the most excited about him as basically any head coach that we've had in recent history. So
unfortunately, in the NBA, I don't think the coach solves the issues. You got to get stars. It's a star. In football, you get the right coach, it can change. Like in the NFL, like Sean Payton going to Denver, it could change them completely from a terrible team with pretty much the same roster. I mean, they didn't make incredible roster moves, and they could be a pretty good team next year. I mean, it's just about chemistry with the coach and the players and stuff. In the NBA, you get the right coach. You could have the best coach. You could have Greg Popovich, and you put him on a team full of just like not stars and like young kids who don't play hard every single night. You're not going to win enough games to, make the playoffs and stuff. So we'll see what Monty Williams does. He's definitely a good coach.
With you. Right. He's definitely a good coach. And also I understand that the Pistons aren't like a superstar team by any means, but our young talent, I mean, Jay Cunningham was pretty much the runner up for rookie of the year. His rookie season. I know he battled injury, but
we're really young. I think we're one star away from being like relatively, important around
at least competitive for sure.
Yeah,
like I would love to see the Pistons just be a competitive team year in and year out, because it's been a long time. And look, I mean, this is not a new conversation to Detroit sports fans in general, where like it is unbelievable the fall from grace that the teams that the Lions had always sucked, and we had really good moments with the other three teams, phasing in and out. Pistons, 15 years ago were probably one of the best teams in the NBA year in and year out. Obviously, the Tigers went on like an 8-year-long stretch. And then the Red Wings had, at the time, the longest playoff streak in NHL history. And all three of those teams have been caught into what we were used to seeing with the Lions, where it's just perpetual rebuild and you're getting your hopes up and you're getting screwed year in and year out. And now the Lions are probably our biggest beacon of hope. So it is weird. And for those that don't know, too, out of any 4-team city, we have the longest championship drought out of any city that has 4 sports franchises located there. So it's not an easy day being a Detroit fan.
It's not ideal being a Detroit fan, but it is what it is. John, I have a fun question for you to kick it off. It has nothing to do with sports. It just kind of was like, I don't even know. It just kind of came to me. Like if you were at, I don't know, a karaoke bar, or you're just having like an emotional night with the boys, maybe you're a few beers deep, and you're like, hey, you're getting on the mic, you got an acoustic guitar, and you're like, hey, like what's like a sing-along like song you're gonna play to like that we'll all sing along to, and just we're all bad singers except for you, but like we all sing along to, and you're just like, I'm just gonna sing this right now because like why not? Like your feels, everybody knows it.
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the audience, right? Because I've done that situation, and like, when I was younger, like I knew a shit ton of Ed Sheeran songs. And look, I don't care what anybody says.
I thought you might go Ed Sheeran.
I was gonna say, I don't care what anybody says. That dude is super talented, and everybody knows the lyrics to at least the choruses of his songs, and they're all like 4 chords, really easy to remember. So I've literally been in similar situations and have got people doing that multiple times. But then it's like, when I'm hanging out with my music friend, we'll play a bunch of random stuff that you've probably never heard of. And then 90s tunes, right? Like you can get any Nirvana song going, you can get an Alice in Chains song going. And I've definitely done like quite a few renditions of like Nutshell by Alice in Chains, or, Come As You Are by Nirvana, or whatever, all those 90s classics. Those are all good ones, easy to sing along to. So, while we're on the note of tangents, I've been in a 3-year writing process for, Mark's probably not used to this, but actually like a pop album that will be coming out later this year.
I've been wanting John to venture into that for years. I've been telling him I'd love to see, because John, if you don't know, for those who don't know and follow our podcast, John's incredibly musically talented. He's been in a few different bands. He's put out solo music.
Yep.
He's been doing it forever, as long as I've known him, even before I knew him. But for most of the time, you've been, more metal, shredding the guitar, that kind of genre.
Yeah, metal and like alternative rock, I'd say, is probably like
for
the
most
two
of
big
his
genres.
for most of his music career. But he's venturing and doing something a little different. He's got some projects coming in the next year, right? This year.
Yeah, finally. So yeah, COVID was essentially a giant hiatus for me. I was unable to play live, and so I've just kind of been like writing and just keeping it chill since then. I unfortunately haven't seen a stage in 3 years, but we'll get there. Then my girlfriend Hannah also is like a classical composer and can do a bunch of other crazy stuff, and is a touring metal band and stuff like that. And she's also got an album coming. So we did the math on it. We're going to be releasing music from like September or so of this year all the way through June 2024. Like it'll just be a perpetual pretty much release cycle between the two of us. So exciting stuff there. I don't know what spurred the conversation about, acoustic stuff. I will say this though, and I don't know if you know this, the song Chop Suey by System of a Down?
Of course.
Okay. So I'm at a bar in DC a few months ago, and me and Hannah get up there and do that one for karaoke. And like, when the song kicked in, everybody was like, what the fuck is going on? And then by the end of the song, we had everybody like cheering and singing for us. And stuff
that
like
must be such an incredible thing to like be at a karaoke bar. Like everyone's looking around like, okay, who's next? And then you go up there and you're actually a performer. Like, I mean, I can't even
hitting them with a genre that they're totally not expecting to hear at a karaoke
but crushing
bar.
it.
And I was about to say, then having the chops
actually do that.
Perform it, yeah, it's we'll definitely find the clip of that one. I wish,
because most people go up there and they just like sound terrible, but everyone's singing and it's like whatever, we're having fun. But
Hannah and I are like harmonizing and stuff.
Yeah, you're
like
that curveball that like, oh, look at these two guys going up there. I wonder what song they're gonna sing. What a cute couple. And then boom, you're hitting Chop Suey and just hitting every single. It's like, what is going on?
It was awesome.
I wish I could do that. My song, if I could sing or had any musical ability whatsoever, would be When I Was Your Man, Bruno Mars. Get on the
That's a
keys,
great
on the
song.
piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
That's
I could
a very
sing,
good
dude,
song.
that's the one song. If I could sing one song well, I'd pick that song.
Speaking of not underrated performers, but I think performers that don't get enough credit about how musically talented they actually are, Bruno Mars, right? And
He
it's
can
like
sing, dude.
not only can he sing his ass off, but he can write. I mean, him and Anderson .Paak, when they did that Silk Sonic album last year, I had
Yeah.
that thing on repeat for months.
Dude, you
Like,
know Bruno Mars is like 5'2".
yeah, he's a tiny
He's
guy.
really short.
Yeah.
But
And
whatever.
I think he's married now, and his wife is a smoke show though. So like,
Well, of
I
course,
don't think his
Bruno
height
Mars.
really was getting in
I
the
mean,
way.
he's
Yeah.
saying if you can sing When I Was Your Man like he does, I mean, you name somebody that you'd like to take out to dinner. You're probably gonna have a yes as the answer.
Yeah. Anyways, getting back to football.
Sorry for the tangent, people.
No, it's a welcome tangent. We are in June. And as much as I would love to talk NBA for 30 minutes, I just don't think either of us have it in us.
Yeah.
But
The hat's the most you'll get out of me.
hat is the most that you'll get. So one topic that I want to talk about is just running backs in the NFL. And this has been a point of conversation for a few reasons, right? I mean, people are talking about how consistently productive Nick Chubb has been with his offensive line with the Browns and how big of a difference that makes. And then, a big point of contention with Jahmyr Gibbs right now. Austin Eckler asking for a trade. Like there's a lot of not only just kind of drama around the position lately, but I think like the stem of all that drama, right, is really rooted in, is the running back position a valuable position worth paying money for, like you see guys willing to pay wide receivers for, or particular tight ends for, things like that? Are they game changers in that sense? And then if you're looking at the free agency market right now, the answer to that is no, right? And I do kind of want to bring up a couple points to challenge that, but obviously Zeke is on the market right now. Lombardi Lenny's on the market right now. Dalvin Cook's on the market right now. Kareem Hunt is on the market right now. And those are just kind of some of the bigger names. There's 4 or 5
There's
other
a
guys
lot of
out
other
there.
names there still. Dude, yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. And I think what you have to realize, and what I think people are starting to realize, the NFL for sure has realized, is you're not looking at the running back for the person. You're looking at the running back. It's just become the position. It doesn't matter who you are. And in almost every other position in the NFL, it's player to player. Like you're considering, giving this guy a contract or not. You look at tight ends. I mean, that's pretty, self-explanatory. They're going to get the contract if they're the Travis Kelce's, if they're the Gronkowski's, right? Quarterback, obviously, like, what have you done? What's the guy's name? Where do we see you going? Right, we're going to protect you at all costs. Even like offensive tackle, a lot you're seeing teams invest in them, and if
Absolutely.
if you're the right name, they don't just treat that position as just like, oh, we can refill it. You look at the running back position, however, and it has never been as bad as it is right now in terms of they just look at it as it's just not a valuable position. And you notice what's happening to the position is your durability has become increasingly important, and your ability to do more than just run the ball. And it's not just, oh, do they block? It used to be just, hey, he's going to get downhill. He's going to get you tough yards, and he blocks and he's tough. That's used to be, I mean, the running back position in a nutshell, right? But now it's like, okay, can he run routes? Can we put him in motion? Can we line him up as a receiver? Can we line him up in wildcat? Can he pass protection? Is he good enough to throw the ball if we want to put in a trick? Like all this different stuff is now being evaluated for the running backs. And those are the guys that seem to be getting contracts. And that's why you saw like Austin Eckler was responsible for a ton of the success the Chargers offense had. I mean, he was the sole, like he was like their he might've been their top receiver or top 2 receiver as a running back, and then also led them in rushing. Christian McCaffrey did that in Carolina. And that's why, you see him still getting the big contracts. Alvin Kamara, right, kind of did that in New Orleans. You see him getting the big contract. But guys like Zeke, guys like playoff Lenny, where it's not a ton of that stuff. And even Dalvin Cook, you see a little bit of Dalvin Cook out of the backfield, but he's not as good as some of these other guys I just named. And you start to wonder, right? And I think that's why you see the Lions draft like a Jahmyr Gibbs so high, right? Because he is a guy that can catch out of the backfield and do all that stuff. Bijan Robinson to Atlanta got drafted 8th overall. You're seeing teams invest in running backs that can do that. But if you can't do that and you are a good running back, no one's saying you're a bad running back, you're just not worth that investment because of injury risk, because of longevity. It's
especially
interesting.
as you get older
backs.
too, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like I think people are less afraid. I have 2 points, right? Because I think you're definitely nailing it. One, you're seeing people less afraid to draft running backs high because that's all the money they're going to pay them, right? That contract is going to be up, and they're going to ship them somewhere else.
Yeah, you're front loading their career success, knowing that they'll probably fall off. I mean, the fall off time is just sooner.
Right. And then the other thing is, I agree with you that, and I think this actually doesn't matter a ton for whether or not you're going to see that second contract, because I think, like, regardless of the type of running back you are, it's really tough to see kind of that big money contract. But there are like 2 categories of running back, right? Like your classic running back style that you're, alluding to, more of just like a bruiser, run the ball, right? Your AJ Dillons of the world, your Nick Chubbs of the world, your David Montgomerys of the world. And then you have these more versatile running backs that you're referring to, your Ecklers, Kamaras, Jahmyr Gibbs of the world. And they are 2 distinct different roles, right? And that is really what the running back position, at least from my perspective, has become, is that those are 2 different positions. I don't know what you'd want to label those positions, whether it's like, between the tackles running back and outside of tackles running back, but like that's what you see now. And that's why, Swift, for example, and I know I was a pretty vocal critic of Swift last year, but that's exactly why he got shipped out of Detroit. It's because he couldn't handle the outside of the tackle work that Ben Johnson needed him to do. And we were just like, screw this. Let's go get a guy we know for sure can do that. Let's bring in Gibbs, and then we'll have, upgrade our inside of the tackle position too with David Montgomery, who has the most, broken tackles all of last season, and is really good after contact, right? And that's kind of what I think most NFL teams are targeting now, is they're having one guy for each. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, right? The list goes on with that. So it's definitely interesting, because I think that is a paradigm shift where if you want to see that second contract, you have to know your niche, and you have to probably tape your expectations on how big that money's going to be, right?
Yeah. And it's just another thing, the running game. Yeah, if you have a standout star running back, your running game can become really, really great. But if you just have a consistent offensive line, and the plays you're calling schematically make sense, like what you see in San Francisco every year, before they had McCaffrey, they still had great rushing seasons. And it didn't matter
Right.
who they put back there, Elijah Mitchell, Debo Samuel. It doesn't matter who you put back there. If you block it correctly and you call the right plays, you could put you back there, John, and you're going to get positive yards. Like it's become so much not about who it is, but it's about what you do. And you see with the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard was paid a great amount less than Zeke Elliott, was the better player at catching the ball, at explosive plays, at making people miss, even at breaking tackles at some point last year than Zeke was. But you saw Zeke still getting these carries, and you're wondering, like, why? And you knew, everyone in Dallas knew, Jerry knew, coaches knew, that we probably shouldn't have paid Zeke Elliott when we did. And he was a great player when we paid him, but we paid him at his peak. And ever since he got his money, it's been downhill. And it's nothing against Zeke, but that happens all the time with running backs. They made a huge mistake. They had to pay him. They had to eat that. And now no one's even signed him, because he's probably asking for a large price tag.
I didn't even mention the fact that what matters more than any of these running back skill sets, or their physical attributes, or their ability to catch, and all of those things that we're talking about, what really matters at the end of the day is blocking scheme. And you're completely right, Mark. It's if the offensive line is above average, and the tight ends know their assignment, and the offensive coordinators actually setting things up for those running backs to be successful, all they have to do is run the freaking ball. And that's
we
it.
see it all the time. Like look at Minnesota. Delvin Cook's one of the best backs in the league. No one would argue that. But when, and he's been injury prone the last few seasons, when he misses games, fantasy owners should know better than anyone. The second you see Delvin Cook's name go red, all you got to go do is sign the backup in Minnesota, and he produces about the same amount of yards and touchdowns as Delvin Cook would.
Right.
Madison did a fine job as the backup in Minnesota the last few seasons, and he got plenty of reps doing it because Cook was hurt a lot. And fantasy owners should know. I mean, it's not like you're going to have a huge drop off in your fantasy performance because you lost Delvin Cook for a week. As long as you got Madison on waivers, they basically do the same thing, but you have to pay Delvin Cook way more money to do something that your backup can do probably like 95% as well. You know, you might
Right.
not get that extra little push of greatness that you see Dalvin Cook flash every once in a while, but that's not going to make or break your team. You know, that'll make or break your team if you're like a team that's right there on the brink of winning a Super Bowl and you add a guy like a Leonard Fournette, like when he went to Tampa, that pushed them over the edge, right? Because he was able to hit some home runs for them. He was able to protect Tom Brady in the pocket, great pass protector. It's small details like that. But if you're just like a normal team and you swing on a running back, you know, not great. That's why I thought
Yeah.
Tennessee should have gotten Derrick Henry traded because you're not
They're in a rebuild year. What's the point, right? It's
exactly like you're a Super Bowl contending team. You
that's why
definitely make it
the
work,
D
but
Hop conversations really confuse me too. It's like what?
he just wants
Why?
his bag. I don't
I
even.
know, but why would Tennessee pay it? Is exactly what I'm saying. Is like now's not the time to be reloading on weapons or paying your current guys big contracts. Like you're
Well,
clearly trying to figure out who your guys are at the quarterback position, at offensive line.
yeah.
They got a lot of defensive issues too.
The
So
hard
it's
the
really
hardest thing, John, with that is you're absolutely right. But the problem is the people making decisions they have to win now because you're the forgiveness in the NFL for your job security as a GM,
right.
as a coach,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of patience. So if it's understood you're in a rebuild and you're hired with the understanding that you're in a rebuild and they say we're going to give you 2-3 years for sure, take your time to get us right, like kind of what Dan Campbell's done, great. But if you get
Right.
hired and you're Mike Vrabel and you're expected to win now, and you had a couple winning seasons and now you've kind of fallen into a rebuild, it's still win now because you have another bad season and you're ass out, fired. You know what I mean? And then
Right. Well, and it's
that's the
very
problem.
rare that there's two things that's really rare about what you just said too. It's very rare that you have owners that have the patience to sit down with
Yeah.
a coach and say
Very rare.
2 or 3 years to figure it out, right? I mean, so very lucky that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were able to end up in that situation. And then on the flip side too, it's very rare that the guys that you give that kind of trust and patience to are actually the right guys.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Detroit actually has been able to have both of those situations where they got the right manager, they got the right coach, and then also they had an owner that wasn't gonna, like crush this thing before really the party even started,
Yeah.
then it's a very lucky situation, honestly. And hopefully it leads to both of those guys sticking around for the foreseeable future if we have a
Dude,
winning
like
season this year. So
yeah, and like even look at like the Texans for example, right? They invest in their coach of the future and they're like, "Hey, we're going to rebuild from the ground up." They got the
because
GM.
the past 3-4 years it's been a revolving
It's
door
been
at the head
revolving
coaching.
coaches, revolving rebuild, and now they think they got their guy at the coaching spot. They think they have the GM they want, and even they kind of rushed it a little bit, right? And they traded up very aggressively. Now I loved it, but if that doesn't work out for them, that's going to harm them big time. If Stroud isn't the guy and Will Anderson doesn't pan out to be the player that people project him to be, so you can swing big and sometimes you hit and it works and you look like a genius. But if you're wrong, you're going to really set that franchise back. But the thing is, DeMeco Ryans doesn't care because if they lose and he gets fired, you think he's going to care what happens to the Texans 10 years from now? You think that GM's going to care when he's working for the Cowboys in 12 years? No, they're
Right.
not going to care, you know? So that's
Yeah.
the problem. And that's why it's so, like you said, rare to see a GM, an owner, a coach all on the same page, understanding, hey, we're rebuilding. Let's take our time, do this the right way, and then the longevity will come. And when it does happen and it does work out, you see dynasties.
Right. Yeah, I think you're completely right. Also, another interesting topic. Just so Stephon Diggs did not show up to minicamp, mandatory minicamp, which is a finable offense if you are under contract. Which not only is he under contract, he actually renegotiated his contract and came to new terms on the money, and so everything should be all good there. And he's not in a cuttable or tradable position whatsoever due to the renegotiation of that contract. So it's really an interesting situation on what exactly he's disgruntled by. Nobody really knows. Everybody's just kind of drawing a blank on it. Apparently, there was some disagreement with management that he had. He met with him, then he met with McDermott, apparently, and then just was ass out by the time minicamp started. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's speculating, like, okay, could it be like, coaching decision? Could it be a drafting decision? Like that he's just unhappy with? Scheme?
I have
I
two
don't know.
things with this. One is a joke, kind of, and then one is like serious. Beginning of the Madden curse, perhaps.
Yeah, that's what people were saying.
John just posted a short. Go check it out if you haven't, on whether or not the Madden curse is real. Put some good research behind it, and the evidence speaks for itself. But in a real note, he did a very similar thing when he wanted to leave Minnesota. Everything was going well. He was having like Pro Bowl seasons. He had the Minneapolis Miracle. Like, he was loved in Minnesota. He had really good chemistry with the team there. I know he had some issues with the coach, but they had just gotten a new coach, stuff like that. And he just basically, when he talks about it, like 2020, he's just like, yeah, I just wanted a fresh start. Nothing against Minnesota, nothing against my teammates there. I loved my time there. I just kind of wanted to do something new. Basically all he said. And he didn't, you're not going to have a perfect spot on an NFL team very often. And it's like, some receivers would kill to be in his spot. Have Josh Allen as his quarterback,
I can't really
be on a
think
winning
of a better
team,
situation.
playoff team the last few seasons. You get to play in Buffalo with some of the fans that would kill for you. I don't know. I don't know what he's disgruntled about. I don't know what the deal is there. A lot of people obviously speculate he wants to team up with his brother in Dallas. America's team, a lot of primetime games, star of the show. But I don't know, dude. I mean, I can't think of many better spots for him than where he's at.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think everybody's kind of scratching their head on this one because, like, I can't think of too many better situations than Buffalo, right? The team's been really good for the past couple of years. They're in the Super Bowl conversation year in, year out. Really stable shit from a coaching and management standpoint. Fan base is awesome, and they absolutely love their team. Like, it's weird. So I'm curious, and who knows, right? I mean, he might show up a day or two from now and it's all just water under the bridge at the end of the day. But what drives somebody to do that, because we know for a fact it's not a money issue, because that's usually what happens, is there's a money issue. So everybody's just like, okay, what's the problem here, right? Like, what better situations can you possibly go to? Because you can't, you're locked in. There is no wiggle room to cut or trade him, so he is stuck there. I'm just confused by it.
And it's weird too, because in a season where, and an off season in specific, where we've seen Josh Allen seem so focused and so pissed off at the failures and coming up short the last few seasons with such high expectations for their team, you would think, with how Josh Allen's carrying himself and how some of these, how the coaches are speaking and what they did in the offseason, how they drafted, that he would be more bought in than ever. Right. Competitor, right? And like when we saw him throw his fits on the sideline and arguing with Josh Allen and yelling at coaches and yelling at other players and stuff, when he answered after the game, it was like, hey, I'm a competitor and sometimes that gets to me. Well, if you're a competitor, go get to work, dude. Like, if you don't, like, you know what I mean? You can't get on your quarterback because he had a bad game and the play caller had a bad game and maybe you didn't get the ball enough or whatever you were, whining about. And then when the offseason comes to get better and improve that, and your quarterback's clearly bought in and your team seems to be bought in, and then you're not there, not the message you want to send, not the message that backs up what he was saying in the media last year. So a lot of question marks there. I think the story's bigger than it actually sounds. And for the head coach to say and admit to media, I am worried.
Yeah, that is the other thing. Right? It's not very often. Usually when a situation like this happens, right, you get kind of how John Harbaugh handled the Lamar situation, right? We love Lamar. It's all going to be good. Lamar is actively asking for a trade on Twitter while he's being interviewed. He still won't crack.
It's
he's
always like, nope. Rainbows and butterflies in the interviews. Yep, rainbows and butterflies. Smile.
And to come out and be like, no, it's concerning. It's like, oh, shit. Okay, so there is a problem here, right?
And you could tell, and by him saying that publicly, he's fed up.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, this he's being a drama queen. He needs to get his ass here and get to work because we have a chance to be special. And we have Aaron Rodgers is now in our division. Miami continues to get better, and the Patriots are always the Patriots. Like, we need to get to work because you slip a little bit, you're going to be the 4th out of 4 teams in your division with the roster that the Bills have and with the quarterback that you have. And or is it just the Madden curse? Maybe we're just overanalyzing this whole thing.
Maybe Buffalo's going to blow up on itself purely because Josh Allen's on the cover of Madden 24.
You never know, man. You never know.
Okay.
Time will tell.
just kind of on the topic of, maybe run games and big contracts and things like that. So Mina Kimes, who's an analyst at ESPN, I actually think maybe she's under the Omaha Productions umbrella. I digress. She's one of my favorite like network analysts. Her freaking football IQ is nuts. But she pointed out something today that with Mark kind of not being super sold on Lamar or the Ravens, I wanted to point out, which is when the Ravens offense is going against a light box, right, which is 6 or less players, right in the offensive line space, they are the most effective offense in the NFL. They get more yards per play than KC, than anybody, right? Which, no shit, Lamar, good offensive line. They like running big man personnel a lot. So what gives, right? Who cares? The thing is that they also saw a light box lower than just about any other team in the league because of the fact that we know where Baltimore's strengths are. Okay, where are you going with this, John? Where I'm going with this is that they made a lot of investments at receiver and tight end the past couple of years. They have, other than Kelsey, probably the best tight end in the league. And then, grabbing Odell, grabbing Zay Flowers, Bateman's going to be back. And they're maintaining that strong offensive line. A lot of big-bodied blocking tight ends
New
and a really good run game. New OC as well. So just kind of doubling down on my opinion that the Baltimore Ravens are in for a very productive season this next season. I truly believe that them investing in their passing game and doing it so that you can't just send the house against Lamar every single freaking time because you know what he's going to do is going to be massive for the productivity of their offense. And their defense is pretty damn good too, and has been, and it's been consistent. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, where, I was like, man, is this like a bold take to say that they might win their division over the Bengals this coming season? And the more that I kind of stew on it, I'm like, actually, I think that could happen, right? I think they could really get it done. So, look, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. I know we've talked about Lamar probably the past 2 or 3 episodes, but just adding yet another argument into the mix here because I saw that stat and I was like, that's kind of hard to go against.
Stats can lie to you, but you kind of uncovered your own lie. Yeah. When they have a light box, they run the ball well. And that's because they run the ball well, period. Even against a 7-8 man box, sometimes they're running the ball successfully. That's what their identity has been. There's a reason for that. And, part of it has to be just their lack of confidence in Lamar as just a normal pure passer. So they're going to run the ball until they can't. And so that's why they also saw such a low amount of light boxes because teams knew they were going to run the ball and you got to stop their run to beat the Ravens. If you let the Ravens run all game, they will beat you. They'll get an early lead. They'll continue to get first downs. They'll chunk the clock and they're tough to beat. But when they get behind, they've struggled. We've seen that. So if they're able to complete the ball downfield even a little bit, John, to your point, they'll see more light boxes and they'll be able to do both. But that's a big if. That's if they're able to hit some of these home run throws. That's if Lamar is able to improve as a passer. I know they've improved at receiver for sure. Zay Flowers is a stud. Odell could be a stud if he looks even remotely like he did when he was at the Rams. Mark Andrews is Mark Andrews. We've seen what he can do. It's going to be tough to see, though. It will be tough to stop if Lamar steps up his game as a passer.
I just don't
know what he can do as a runner.
Correct. And I just don't think that Lamar has had an opportunity to really show who he is as a passer, right? Because of the fact that, we take guys like, Jared Goff or Tua and we give them, Waddle, Hill, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, list goes on, and they look like damn good quarterbacks. And Lamar has never had, I think, a supporting cast that really says, hey, I'm not even saying he needs to be throwing bombs downfield, right? Zay Flowers is a really freaking good slot receiver too. And, Odell, I don't know, an aged Odell might be a little bit different than, in his prime Odell, but I'm just saying like even short yardage passes, but you're still at least kind of extending the field, opening up, where your defenders are at a little bit might be massive. So we'll see what happens. And again, let's not forget that Dobbins is in the backfield and he is still very, very, very productive as a runner. So
and Gus Bus.
And
Gus Bus is another good running. It'll just be, again, you could very well be right, but I'm tired of making excuses for Lamar. I think he's had plenty of good rosters.
Make or break season. Make or break season. Absolutely.
And listen, a lot of the doubts that I have and others have about his passing, yes, he could have had better receivers in the last few seasons, but there's been a lot of times where he just flat out misses throws to guys that are open. And he needs to fix that. And if he does fix that, you could see an MVP caliber Lamar Jackson again. And you could see him as a true dual threat because, like you said, if they start hitting some of these passes, box will lighten up. And look out, because if they're able to run and then hit some play action as well with the weapons they have, it's going to be tough to stop.
Right. So that's just where I'm at with it. And the AFC is going to be an absolute bloodbath this year. It's crazy to think that some of the teams that are on that side of the conference, won't be making the playoffs. But I guess we'll see what happens, right? The other thing I want to mention too, just a quick screen share here, is Tom Grossi, who's a popular YouTuber, primarily known for, the Packers podcast, working closely with Brandon Perna at That's Good Sports for a lot of stuff. He's actually going on a tour right now to visit all 30 NFL stadiums in 30 days. And I think he's about a little over halfway done with that. And the reason that he's doing it is to raise money for St. Jude, which is, probably one of the best causes you can support, obviously, is, a very innovative children's hospital. And sure enough, they've raised upwards of $125,000 as of recording this, which, probably by the time the tour's over, I would suggest, that they're going to be probably close to 300K or so, which is freaking awesome. But anyways, when he was in DC, Hannah, being awesome, who does not care about football at all, decided to tag along with me. But that's him. This is at the Lincoln Memorial. So think about it. You're just like a tourist in DC, and you're walking around, you're checking out the Lincoln, and you see this dude surrounded by like 50 or 60 NFL football fans in the middle of June in the off season, just chopping it up, talking football, which was a hilarious sight to see. But yeah, there's myself and Hannah. He was super cool. Got to chat with him a little bit. I'm going to try to find a way to potentially send him some practice squad merch as well. But I did want to shout that out, not only because it was cool to meet him, but also because he's doing it for an awesome cause. So if you want to go head over to his social media at Tom Grossi Comedy on Twitter. He's still raising money. The link to donate to St. Jude and all that stuff is there. So while it's still going on, thought it was worth the shout out.
And you were repping the Gardner Johnson jersey, I see.
I was, and he's a huge Packers fan. And so when I, walked to shake his hand, he was like, but I got him to admit that he thinks the Lions are the favorite to win the NFC North this year. So
that's what the betting says too.
Yep. Hearing that from a Packers fan, though, like I get there's a lot of turbulence over there, but for you to go against your own team like that is, that's a
admitting that it might not be your team's year doesn't mean you're not a fan. You gotta be a realist.
Well, hey, we also don't know. Maybe Jordan Love is another freaking Hall of Fame quarterback, and we're stuck with that bullshit for another decade.
If history repeats itself, they have a third Hall of Famer in a row as their quarterback in Green Bay without skipping a beat. That would be our luck,
That would be our luck. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
No, while we're on the topic of starting to look ahead to next season, which we love to do, John, you want to play a little game? I'm just going to name a team. Okay. I'm going to name all 32 teams, and without much thought, and you don't have to give me a ton of reasoning unless we really disagree on one of these strongly. Sure. I just want you to say better or worse in terms of how many games they win.
In the totality of their offseason, they are either a better team next season or a worse team next season.
Yes, like after next season, will they have won more games than they did the year prior?
Got it. Okay.
Gone further in the playoffs.
That sounded like Saw at the beginning, though. I was a little bit nervous what you were going to have me do here. I want to play a game. Also, I just wanted to make our faces a little bit bigger since we're not screen sharing anymore. Anyways, go for it.
You ready?
Yep.
And it's in no particular order.
Oh, we're not going by division?
Come
on, help me out. Let's go by division.
I'll try, but I have it pulled up where it's just worst to best.
All right, so you don't have all 32 NFL teams memorized, which just means you're not a real fan. But
no, not in a specific. But I also want to have the record and everything too. So
okay.
We're gonna start with the Chicago Bears. They were 3-14 last year.
Better.
Can't. There's no argument there. The Houston Texans were 3-13 last year with one tie.
Better.
That's where it gets. That's close.
The floor is really low.
The tie throws it. Yeah, the tie kind of throws it in there. Makes it a little bit
the
interesting.
bar is set here, and I still think they're probably going to end up around there. So
I know
anyways,
their division is
abysmal.
I'm going to also go with better for the Texans. Cardinals were 4-13 last year.
Worse. I think they'll be the worst team in the league.
I agree. The Indianapolis Colts were 4-12-1.
Worse.
Really?
I think they'll be the second worst team in the league.
It's tough, man. It's tough, but I'm going to have to agree with you. Actually, I might just say even, same.
Okay.
4-12-1 again.
Is that an option?
I don't know. No,
Okay.
it's not. I'm going to say worse.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Rams were 5-12.
Better.
I'm going to say worse. Their division's tough. And I don't
Their
believe in
division's
Matthew
tough,
Stafford.
but-
I will hate on Matthew Stafford till the day I croak.
Yeah, we know it.
Stetson Bennett's coming for that starting spot, baby.
I don't care who's at quarterback. In general, they were injured, and I think they will have a better season just purely on the fact that they're not going to be as beat up. And they did well with their draft class, even though they didn't have a first-round pick.
Will Stafford lead the league in picks again?
No, that's Dak Prescott's.
We'll find out. If Stafford didn't get hurt, he was on track to have more. The Denver Broncos were 5-12. Better or worse?
Better. Sean Payton.
With the Chargers.
Yep.
And the Chiefs. I guess the Raiders are trash now.
Yeah. I have choice words about the Raiders. We'll get there.
I'm going to say worse.
Okay.
I don't believe in Russell Wilson, and I'm sorry, Sean Payton. I think he's just got his bag, and he's going to go work for Fox again, sit in the booth in 2 seasons, get a little extra pay. The Raiders, 6-11 last year.
Third worst team in the league.
So
that's where I'm at.
For sure, worse. Yeah, I think worse as well. The Titans. This is where it starts to get interesting. The Titans, 7-10. Worse. I agree.
Yep.
The New York Football Jets.
Better.
They were 7-10 last year with Zach Wilson and White and Flacco taking snaps at QB. They signed a little guy named Aaron Rodgers.
That's really all you need to be poised for a better season. Yep.
The Saints were 7-10.
Better. They're back to a stable ship at quarterback, and I know what I'm getting.
Will Kamara be playing?
That's a big question mark.
Will Michael Thomas be playing?
The first week.
I'm going to say better as well. I'm going to say better as well, because if and only if all of those pieces do come together, they actually have a pretty functional offense, and we know what their defense can do. The Cleveland Browns, 7-10 last year.
This is officially my first hard one, I think.
Watson's been working.
I'm gonna say better, and it hurts to say it, but I think
I'm gonna say better as well.
Yeah.
I think they're one of those sneaky teams, and I wouldn't want to bet against.
I think they're like
Watson.
on the 8 or 9 win bubble, though. I still think they might not.
Tough division, but dude, their D line is scary. The Carolina Panthers were 7-10 last year. Bryce Young named their starter last week officially QB1.
I think they'll be worse, honestly, but that's not to discredit what they have going on over there. It's just the changing of the guard. So
this is another one where I would say like the same. I think that 7 wins is right around right, but I'm gonna also go under. Even though that division is just a dumpster fire. The Atlanta Falcons were 7-10 last year.
That's actually shocking. And I am going to say worse.
I'm going to say worse as well. The Patriots, in a very hard division, were 8-9 last year.
Sorry, Pats, worse. I think they might not win a single game in their division. They might be
I
0
think,
and
I
6
think they'll
in their
steal
division.
I think they'll steal a couple games in their division, but they will struggle. It's so funny to me to see the Patriots in like one of their worst years, 8-9. Like a few years ago,
Yeah.
Lions fans would kill to be 8-9. We're celebrating what were the Lions? We were 9-8 last year. We acted like we won the damn Super Bowl. They're one game behind us. And by the way, when they played the Lions head to head, shut us out.
Crushed them.
And here we are talking like the Patriots are dead. It's just so funny how franchises' expectations are different. But yeah, I would say under for the Pats. The Green Bay Packers 8-9 last year.
Under. Even though I was joking about Jordan Love potentially being Hall of Fame potential right out the gate here. No, I think they're going to struggle this year.
You got a lot of unders going, John.
Yeah.
I don't know how the math's going to work out here, but someone's got to go over.
Well, you're getting to the 9-win and 10-win teams. Maybe it's a little bit more top loaded. So
it's gonna. I mean, I don't know. We'll see actually, because some of these you're gonna be like, The Commanders were 8-9 last year.
See, that's one where I say they might be better, and my reason why. Here's
because
my
the
reason
ownership
why.
change.
Got rid of ownership. Eric Bieniemy's your OC with something to prove, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I do think you got better everywhere except quarterback this offseason.
Also, correction, they were 8-1. They tied the Giants.
Okay, so yeah, I can see 9-8 from the good old Commanders.
Really?
Yeah,
with the Eagles, the Giants getting a little better, and then the Cowboys.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go under. I think the Commanders could be one of. I mean, they're starting Sam Howell.
Yeah, that's my biggest question mark. But I honestly think everywhere else this past offseason, they got better. So we'll see.
All right, I'm going under for them. The Seattle Seahawks were 9-8 last year with a first round exit. Do they go further in the playoffs? In the playoffs?
Yep.
And now, as we get into these playoff teams, John, it's not necessarily about more wins or less losses or whatever. It's how far do you go? Do you advance further?
Well, okay, you're changing the criteria from
okay, kind of. But the other teams,
I'll say both, just to keep the trend going. So better record, probably the same playoff exit though for the Seahawks.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna go better record, and I think that they win a playoff game.
Okay.
Because I think they might steal the division, get a home playoff game. The Pittsburgh Steelers in a rebuild year where Mike Tomlin was already getting talked about getting to do we have to fire him or not? 9-8 last year with Kenny Pickett at quarterback.
And I'm going to say they're going to be better this year because they were dealing with a lot of hot garbage on both sides of the ball. And I think they've gotten a lot more stable on both sides of the ball. And Pickett's in year 2. So I think all of those are helpful.
I'm going to go worse only because and the sad thing is the Steelers got better, but their division also, each team got better. And I was surprised that they went 9-8 last year. They drafted extremely well.
I was surprised they went 9-8. I'm thinking they win 9 or 10 games this year.
I'm going to have to say worse. I think they win 6 or 7 games.
Okay.
The Miami Dolphins were 9-8 last year. After starting hot.
They're going to be better.
This is like
it's another 10-win team.
This is like a do you believe it in Tua, I'm gonna go worse. I'm gonna go worse because I think that the Jets are gonna be the king in that division. I think the Bills will steal a game from Miami, and I just think that they maybe lose a couple here and there. That's a tough one though. The Jacksonville Jags.
They will be better because their division.
They were 9-8 and they won a playoff game.
They're probably another 10-11-win team, I think, even just because of how bad their division is.
Do they win 2 playoff games?
Ooh, that's where
we know they're going to have a home game. We know they'll have a home game.
I think it will be the same situation. I think they'll lose in the second round. The AFC is just too loaded.
I agree with you. They'll be better. I think they win like 14 games.
14?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a bold take.
I think they win like 13 or 14 games. And then I think that they win 2 playoff games, John. I think we see them in the AFC championship game.
That would be
Well,
nuts.
I think there's a chance.
I'm here for that.
I actually think that there's a chance they get a bye. And I think they might be the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. There's a chance of that happening. And
that would be crazy. I'm not saying that's totally out of the realm of possibility, though. Again, they have a very bad division that they get to beat up on. So
yeah, that's why I think maybe they end up in the AFC. Then they would only have to win 1. So, the Detroit Lions 9-8 last year.
you know where I'm at with this. Better,
You know where we're at.
11, 12,
and the more
13
that I've
team.
talked about people off air about this damn team, the more excited I'm getting, and the more I want to think they're going to win 13, 14 games, just like the Jags. I'm really getting that high on them, and I keep looking at their schedule, and I could see
It's
it.
not a tough
But I also
schedule.
don't want to talk about it more because the more we talk about it, you and I are cursed. We know it. We'll win 7 games, and then we'll just be absolutely sad.
Not acceptable.
The New York Football Giants.
Worse.
They were 9-7-1.
Worse. I think they'll be an 8-win team. I think paying Danny Dimes was kind of a mistake, and I don't think he will improve this season. I think he will be the exact same, if not worse, of a quarterback. So that's where I'm at with it.
And doubling down, I agree with you that they will be worse, and I don't think they'll win a playoff game. Last year they did. I think they'll be worse. And as we kind of link it back to the beginning of this episode with the running back talks, Saquon Barkley and them are still negotiating for his contract extension. They are both openly saying that there hasn't been much improvement on their negotiations, and they're supposed to try to sign him by July. So by mid-July, they're supposed to have something, some kind of a deal worked out here. And we're talking about one of the best young backs in the league with proven production, with not many injury issues. He can catch the ball, he can block, he can run. And even him having struggles as a running back signing the contract. It's just, it's not the player, it's the position. I will double down. I will die on that opinion. The LA Chargers were 10-7 last year after blowing a horrific lead in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, that's tough. I'm gonna say worse. So somebody's got to make room for the Jets and some of those other AFC teams that are poised for a playoff berth, and unfortunately, it's the Chargers.
I mean, they set themselves a pretty low bar losing round 1.
Yeah, I think Brandon Staley gets fired this year as well.
Mid-season?
Not mid-season, but I think he gets fired this year.
I have a different opinion here. I think Justin Herbert takes another step forward. I think that they did good things in the offseason. I think that they get their defense healthy again. And if they stay healthy, they have one of the better defenses in the league. I think they win more games in the regular season. I think you're looking at 12 or 13 wins. And then I think that they win 1, maybe 2 playoff games. I think that this team it's their time. It's kind of like
I've been saying this about the Chargers for years now, and that's where I'm honestly disappointed, because I think they're a sweet team, and I really love watching them play. And I think the offensive coordinator position getting upgraded, I think they're going to be a better offense even than they were last year. But I think that Brandon Staley is going to, they're either going to be like a 9 or 10 win team again, make the playoffs, and Brandon Staley is going to do something stupid and they're going to choke, and his ass is going to be out. That's what I think. I think they'll keep it's tough because head coaches then come in and want to change things up a lot when the new head coach comes in.
We saw what Kellen Moore did with Dak in Dallas.
Yep.
Imagine now he gets to play with Justin Herbert and his skill set. I can imagine that might be pretty exciting for a play caller to go from Dak to Justin Herbert. And I think having Austin Eckler too as a little weapon in the backfield, used in a lot of different ways. You have Keenan Allen, you have Mike Williams, and you drafted Quentin Johnson with Everett. I mean, they're loaded.
This is what I struggle with, is because of the fact that I think offensively they're going to be sick this year. I think they're going to be super sweet. And I think everybody's going to think this is the year for the Chargers. Finally, we made it. We're over the hump. And then they're going to either just barely miss the playoffs or choke in the first round, and Staley's going to get fired because
if their defense, but I'm telling you, their defense stays healthy, dude, they're loaded on defense with Boza and Khalil Mack, and they have a great linebacking core. Derwin James is a stud. Sante Samuel Jr. They're loaded, dude. And they had some. They got just killed with injuries last year on the defensive side of the ball, and they still competed and should have won a playoff game, barring a horrific choke job.
Right.
The Baltimore Ravens, 10-7 last year.
They will be an 11 or 12 win team this year.
I'm gonna say better as well.
Let's go.
I give them 11 wins, but they lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay. Keep the Lamar hate circling for another offseason too. That sounds.
I just can't buy into it.
For sure.
This one I think I know what you're gonna say. The Dallas Cowboys, 12-5.
Worse. They might not make the playoffs. For real.
I have to agree with you that they'll be worse. I think they will make. I think they'll make the playoffs.
League leader in interceptions, Dak Prescott. That's my guess.
I don't think that will be the case, but I do think that they will be worse, and I think that there'll be a first round exit.
Okay, I'll take it.
What I could really see happening, honestly, is the Lions getting a home game, Dallas coming to Detroit, and we beat Detroit, or we beat Dallas in Detroit.
Can we go to that game if that's the case?
Oh, by the way, side note, I haven't even told you this yet. I do plan on going to 1 or 2 Lions home games this year, and what I'd like to do, and please give me feedback. I'd like to go for like tailgating early and interview fans and just walk around with someone filming, have a camera, and cut together a pre-game and maybe post-game and maybe even during game where I just interview random fans and just like, get inside the craziness of like Detroit's hype. Preferably go early in the season while the hype is still alive, and hopefully we're still going strong. And then if we're still alive towards the end of the season, I'll go maybe do it again.
If
it's fun. So putting that out there.
I'm sure that'd be a good time. That would be you just got to target the groups that you can see there's some beers, around the cornhole.
Oh, for sure,
and stuff
dude.
Like
what
that.
Do you think? I'm a goofball? You think I don't know how to find someone in the crowd like who's going to be perfect content? Also, if you're in a town or ever around,
no, we should definitely catch a Lions game together this season.
And I'll find a time and just make the most out of it. You wear your Gardner Johnson jersey. I'll be wearing our new merch. Oh, hint. Yeah, it's going to be some Detroit merch, but there's going to be other stuff as well coming. And we'll just crush it and interview people and have a ball. The Cincinnati Bengals were 12-4 last year.
Worse.
It's hard, man, because they got better for sure. That's the hard thing with some of these teams. They got better, but so did who they play,
That's the thing is I just think their division's so much better this year. I think all 3 teams in their division are better.
Yeah. So going 12-4 is impressive, man.
Yeah, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to replicate. 12-4, that's 16 wins. Or did they tie? Oh, they had the game canceled with Buffalo, DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah. I'm going to go better because I believe in Joe Burrow, and I think that they did get better, and their receiving core is just ridiculous. It's arguably one of the best in the league, if not the best. You could argue Miami. I'm going to go better, and I think that in the playoffs, I think they get it done this year. I think they win more playoff games. I'm not saying that they go to the Super Bowl.
You would have to be saying that if
I technically shit, yeah, you're right. That's basically predicting a Bengals Super Bowl, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that yet. I'm going to say the same amount of playoff wins. Okay. And I don't but man,
based off of your comments,
I think they'll beat the Chiefs. If it's the Chiefs again, they'll beat the Chiefs. But I don't know if it'll be the Chiefs again.
Bengals AFC.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm. That's
now
what
I
it's
want.
All pointing to.
Can I take back I want the Panthers to be a 10-win team. I want to see Jags, Bengals, Lions, Panthers as your final 4 in the NFL.
I mean, that'd be cool.
I don't
it's
think
so
that's
hard.
gonna happen. Don't get me wrong.
I'll put this out there. I'll say this because I don't want to get too detailed in my predictions just yet because we're so early. If Cincinnati plays Kansas City in the playoffs, home or away, Joe Burrow gets revenge.
Okay.
I will say that. However, I don't think Cincinnati goes to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying for now.
All right.
And remember, keep in mind this. What is it? June 13th. So this could change, but as of June 13th, this is John and I's opinions, better or worse. 49ers were 13-4 last year.
Okay. Regular season winning record worse because their division got better. I think most likely NFC championship matchup right now in my head is 49ers Lions or 49ers Eagles again, rematch.
I think a lot of people would agree with those.
So deeper, worse record, deeper in the playoffs, or the same in the playoffs.
Okay.
They're potentially a Super Bowl caliber team. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Even with Trey Lance or
the quarterback situation has not stopped them from making Super Bowls in the past.
Point made, point clear. I'm going to go less wins, so worse in the regular season, and I'm going to go worse in the playoffs. Because I think Seattle is the team in that division this year.
Wow.
I'm not saying that the 49ers will be bad by any means. I think they probably win 10 or 11 games. I see them winning one playoff game maybe.
Got you.
The Minnesota Vikings were 13-4, lost in the first round.
Worse. Frauds. Absolute frauds.
Do they win a playoff game though?
No, I don't even know if they make the playoffs. I was waiting to hear their name that entire time in case you couldn't tell.
They just lost Delvin Cook. I'm going to say worst in the regular season for sure. They won more close games than anyone ever last year in the regular season, and then they choked in the first round of the playoffs. I think they make the playoffs. Oh, yeah. No, first round. They lost to the Giants.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Giants won that game. That's important.
Yeah. I think that they lose again in the first round.
Okay.
So I think they win 9 or 10 games and lose again in the first round. The Buffalo Bills were 13-3, lost to Miami. Or no, I'm sorry, lost to Cincinnati at home in the second round.
Worse. And I know Josh Allen is locked in. I know the train's chugging, but I just think all their competition divisionally got better. And clearly there's some inner turmoil. Update on that, by the way, I literally saw this scrolling on Twitter while we were recording. Stephon Diggs posted on his Instagram story, I just be letting people cap. If them lies help you sleep better, tell him, big dog. He didn't show up to minicamp today. So I don't know what the...
Who's lying?
Yeah. What's the
report,
lie? The news story that broke was about you not being at minicamp, and you were indeed today not at minicamp. So I don't know what other part of the story was a lie potentially, but I'm
not following what that means.
Either he was there and everybody's making it up, which I'm not going to believe that point, or they were telling the truth, because that was the story that broke.
Maybe he's talking about I think what he means, and this is just you ever see those tweets where people tweet something and then they're like, people explain it below, and the name is just explaining stupid things or whatever. This is my attempt at doing that. I think what he's alluding to is that no, he wasn't at minicamp. Obviously, no duh. But he's saying that no, he doesn't want to leave Buffalo. He just thinks he's too big time to go to minicamp or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Something that was definitely wacky.
I'm gonna also go worse though. I'm gonna go worse for the Bills, and I don't think Buffalo wins a playoff game.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
And actually, there's a chance they don't make the playoffs.
You went from last year not winning or not losing a game all season, Super Bowl bound, to this year saying they might not make the playoffs. What's the switch?
Yeah. The switch is their formula for winning games does not work unless the only team that can do that is Patrick Mahomes. You can't just throw the ball 50 times and win consistently. You'll win sometimes, but you don't want to get in shootouts. And then the teams that they're getting in these shootouts with are against Joe Burrow and Mahomes, and now Trevor Lawrence, and now Aaron Rodgers. And it's like you don't want to be in those shootouts. And
Right.
I just don't think that they have the running game to compete with those teams, and they
Agreed.
didn't do much to address that.
They did
Not only
almost
that,
nothing to address
not
it.
only that, but they got ran down their throat by Cincinnati, who's not even a great running team, and
Their
that was
defensive
concerning.
line
And they didn't do a
needs
ton
help, too.
and they didn't do a ton to fix that. So
No.
that's why I'm going under. I'm pretty confident in their under.
I agree with both of those points, by the way, completely.
Yeah. So, and I could see them not even making the playoffs. If they do, they're not winning a game. The Eagles, 14-3, Super Bowl runner-up.
Worse on both fronts, and that is not to discredit the Eagles. I just think it's hard for any team to have back-to-back Super Bowl seasons, especially if you lose your offensive and defensive coordinator in that same season, right? Not to discredit Sirianni, coordinators matter. They matter a shit ton.
Yeah.
So.
And in a roundabout way, you're setting up the Lions Super Bowl prediction. You can't pick them to do better because that would imply not.
An honest Lions prediction is NFC Championship. I would be a pig in shit if they.
I would be surprised if they get. I could see that, but I think that they win a playoff game and lose second round. But
okay,
we'll see. I like to be more realistic, and John likes to dream a little bit. But
where'd that get you?
To dream.
Where'd that get you?
It didn't get me
Remind
far.
Mark to take the ACT.
It didn't get me far. It got me about a quarter mile up the road taking a standardized test that you're supposed to take when you're 17. I'm going to go worse for the Eagles, and I'm going to go not as far in the playoffs. I think that the Eagles win 2 playoff games. I don't think they're the top dog in the NFC, so I don't think they'll get a bye. I think they make an NFC championship appearance, but they do not get to the Super Bowl again. And I think that they win less regular season games. And last, but certainly not least, Kansas City Chiefs were 14-3, Super Bowl champions. Worse or better?
I'm gonna say worse. And again, that's not to discredit Casey. It's just this is the highest bar you can be setting for any team. And I don't think they are hoisting that trophy this upcoming season. I think that the AFC is a bloodbath, and to survive that again, another year over is going to be incredibly difficult. And I think whoever's on the NFC side of things is going to be better than what the Eagles gave them in the second half of that Super Bowl, right? You get down like that against whoever it is on the NFC side again, I don't know if you're coming back. So that's just kind of where I'm at with it. And again, this is, way too early. It's middle of June.
Way too early, but you gotta love it. I'm actually going to go better in the regular season. I think that I'll say same or better. They'll win 14 or 15 games, I think. I don't see them losing more than 2 games. I just think that they're on that level. And I just think Mahomes is just absolutely insane. And continues to get better, and it's absolutely incredible. Every year we think, oh, he's going to fall off, and then he just doesn't.
I don't think Mahomes is not who I'm concerned about. I do think that...
Well, they return everybody.
I know.
Pretty much, besides Frank Clark.
I do think that running your offense through Travis Kelce is going to catch up to you eventually, because Travis Kelce, and I don't want to say this to sound like an asshole or anything, but he is getting older, and I don't think that you can just be Travis Kelce for as long as he's been without eventually that starting to catch up to you, or the defense finally hopefully starting to adjust to that. He's 1/10 of a second slower than he was last season, and all of a sudden he isn't somebody you can run the entire offense through. And that is, again, not at all a discredit to Travis Kelce. That's just kind of how I feel.
It's a fair point, but did you watch him play last year? He didn't look like he was slowing down. And I'd say this too. You got Patrick Mahomes on your team. And I think long after Travis Kelce's career ends, whenever that is, Mahomes has several years left after that.
Right.
And I think they bring everyone back in the receiver room, all going to be better. Kadarius Toney's going to be a weapon. You pretty much only lost Juju. who no one that's
Right.
probably actually
I
a
don't give a
plus.
shit. Yeah.
And then their defense was young as hell, and they're all coming back besides Frank
Yeah.
Clark, and they'll be better.
I
And
wonder if the enemy's absence also has a. I don't think so because
I don't
Andy
think it
Reid
will at
truly is
all.
the
Yeah, it's Andy
mastermind.
Reid's
Yeah.
show.
I don't think so. I'm just curious if it will. Another thing to consider, though, which this just kind of popped into my head, is the true formula for a dynasty football team for your quarterback and your tight end to be more on the same page than anybody else in the offense. I mean, that's
No,
a weird
I think it's a coincidence,
coincidence.
John,
I
and
was gonna say
it's a
it's a weird
coincidence.
coincidence.
It doesn't hurt, but I think it's a coincidence. And really what has to happen is you just have to get really, really lucky on a once in a generation quarterback that gets paired with a once in a generation coach at the right time, and then you build around, and those players are good enough to allow you to have a couple years to build, and then
Right.
basically that's what has to happen. And then you have to have a team player at quarterback who takes a team friendly contract, and a lot has to happen. Basically, you have to get just like the perfect player and human being at quarterback, and then a coach that fits well with that.
I agree with you. It's just an interesting thing that I noticed.
But yeah, it is interesting. I mean,
one last conversation topic before we get out of here, just because I feel like drinking the Lions Kool-Aid a little extra today.
oh man, I'm John, you gotta be careful, man. We're gonna talk the Lions into 6 wins.
Nah. I'm gonna for the first time in my entire life as a Lions fan actually be confident about their future success here.
Doesn't that scare you?
No, because I'm tired of being.
It scares
scared, Mark.
me.
I'm tired
It
of being
scares
scared.
me.
I see all of these other freaking sports fans, and no matter how shitty their situation is, they still sit there and talk up their team like they're winning the Super Bowl next year. And I think if any year's a year where we're allowed to do that, this is the year. Is that realistic? Probably not. I don't care. But this isn't even that big of a topic. I actually think you might agree with this. We might have the best safety locker room in the entire NFL, the more that I think about it. Between Gardner Johnson, Walker, Brian Branch, and Kirby Joseph, only 2 of those guys are going to be on the field at any given point for the most part. That is the fact, just thinking about the fact that potentially Kirby Joseph or Brian Branch are your 2s is kind of nuts if you consider it. And it relieves a lot of pressure off of your corners too. So that's all I got to say. I was just thinking about this today. I'm like, holy crap, we are deep at safety. Corner, we're not as deep. That might be a problem. But safety,
I don't know if
we're deep.
I don't know if I agree. They're up there, and I don't have like just off the top of my head who's better. But there's some teams with pretty good safeties. But I will say
come
this:
to mind for better.
The Steelers have the Steelers.
Steelers come to mind. Yep.
My thing that I'll say about the Lions, and I'll join in on this Kool-Aid drinking, I guess. I think that we have the second or third best 1-2 punch at running back in the league. Yeah. I think you can only put Philly and maybe the 49ers, depending on how they use Debo.
Now, when talking about this, you're not even saying 1-2 punch at running back. You're saying just maybe run game, or you're saying our 2 running backs are better than most of the other.
Like our 2 running backs and how they play together.
Sure.
Like how we, how we sub them in and out, how we put them both on the field at the same time, having the ability to throw to one of them. Actually, both of them are great out of the backfield. Jameer's going to be really special on the backfield, but David Montgomery's really good on the backfield too. And then they just provide, like, what one of them lacks, the other exceeds in, Right. So it's like, I don't know. It's there's really no weakness at that spot for us, is what I'm saying. And Debo and Christian McCaffrey is
critical, obviously. But I think given a healthy season, that we might lead the league in rushing yards.
Mixed with our O-line too. I mean, that I think you have to kind of take that into account.
Totally, absolutely, you have to take that into account. Montgomery was playing in front of a shit O-line last year and still was very productive as a running back just because of the fact that he can truck people and break tackles like crazy. And we have already talked about this. The fact that he might be breaking tackles now 6 yards downfield rather than 2 yards downfield is going to be massive. So
my teams to look out for. All right, teams to look out for, must keep your eye on all season long. The Detroit Lions, repping the hometown, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Chargers. Those are my teams to watch. Keep an eye on.
I like everybody sans Chargers. And again, it's just because I have been in your shoes for 3 seasons straight now and have been disappointed every time. Where I'm thinking this is the year the Chargers finally get it all to click, and year after year I'm like, oh, I guess not. So, look, again, filling another hour and 15-minute time slot in the middle of June. I'm proud of us. What are you?
Oh,
is
John,
that candy, by the way? You were munching on something when we.
I was, and let me show you something too. And I got a last opinion. Another movie I watched. See, I think this is something that we got to add to a lot of our episodes. Okay, I'm going to watch movies that most people have seen that are like universally understood, seen, respected, and then I'm just going to kind of like say what I think because I watched them like 25 years too late. I watched American Gangster.
Okay,
I don't know if you've seen that.
I have.
Okay, yeah, I had not, and I watched that last week. Really good movie. Really good movie. Really good storytelling. I didn't really know about that story at all. Based kind of on a true story. Didn't even know that I didn't know about the true story. Didn't know about the reality of it. The movie was really well done. Obviously, I thought the acting was great. Great story. But yeah, that's my opinion on American Gangster. Also, when you go to watch a movie, you can't beat this 1-2 punch right here. And this is not an ad. Okay. Hashtag no advertising, no free advertising here on the Practice Squad pod. But we got Mike and Ike combination with watermelon Sour Patch. If you think you can find a better candy duo combo, you got the sweet and kind of chewy, right? Both are chewy, but not going to give you cold sores in your mouth with the Sour Patch. You eat too many of these, your mouth's going to hurt. You mix it with these, boom. You can eat as much candy as you want. You're not going to have any issues with any pain.
First of all, I'm gonna say it's the maybe the whitest thing I've ever heard for you to say that you can't handle Sour Patch Kids hurting your mouth if you eat too many of them.
Have you ever eaten a family-sized bag of these in one sitting? Because I have, and they hurt.
Well, also, so my weakness, I'm not a fan of chocolate. I'm a big hard candy fan too. As I think I've told you, if you leave me to my own devices, I will just smash an entire family-sized bag of Skittles, and that catches.
Okay, when you say family size, show me on your hands what size?
So there's the shareable size, and then there's the family size, right? The one that's this big. And
dude, I'm talking like the 3-pound bag, that has a zip on, that's literally
yeah.
It's as big as this binder,
the biggest,
dude.
Okay, not that big, maybe.
It's literally this wide, and it's this high.
There were times when I wasn't where I didn't care about my diet as much, where I would get those family-sized bags at the grocery store and on a Friday or something, and they would be gone by Sunday.
Dude, in college, in college, my mom would send me Amazon boxes of Sour Patch watermelon and Sour Patch strawberry. I bet you didn't even know there's Sour Patch strawberry.
I didn't know there was Sour Patch strawberry.
Exactly. Right? Get on my level. But first of all, she would send me boxes literally bigger than my head. All right. And I would go through 10 of those bags in 2 weeks. It was actually insane.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's just because of how much physical activity you were getting in that you could just afford to
Yeah, I think so. Because
a disgusting amount of calories.
Yeah. And when I would eat all that candy, I didn't eat a lot of other food with it. So I pretty much that would be my dinner. I just would be full. So I just wouldn't eat a normal meal. Not good for your,
NCAA athlete Mark Petrito used to have Sour Patch Kids for dinner. Let it be known.
Yeah. Hey, Chad Ochocinco, McDonald's best diet.
Dude, it really is genetics, and it does piss me off. I'm not gonna lie, because my BMR's probably 1,800 calories. It's like a girl's. It's really bad.
I mean, I've been trying to eat better because I will say the second I stopped playing and I continued to eat the same.
Tougher. Yeah, for sure.
I put on a couple LBs. Yeah. I was
seriously, Hannah is 5 or 6 inches shorter than me, and she will eat more than me on an average meal, and she doesn't gain weight whatsoever, and I hate it. So, anyways, which is why I played offensive line, right? Just I guess I'm always a little bit chubby.
There's
no matter
nothing
how hard I
wrong with
try.
that, dude. There's nothing
So-
wrong with that. And you're grinding right now, hitting the gym several times a week.
Oh yeah, getting stronger for sure. But also got to keep an eye on the blood sugar. So
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be downing 2 boxes of these in one sitting, but life's too
and
short
we'll leave
not
you
to,
with
right?
that, right? I mean, just hey, the blood sugar's under 100 or the blood glucose, whatever, you're good. That's what I learned from WWE wrestler Eric Bugenhagen. Go check out his YouTube too for some solid content.
Hey, and next week's movie, and we do have a guest coming next week as well. So check out that Reservoir Dogs. Watching it tonight. I'll get back to you guys.
Oh, sweet. You know I'm a big Tarantino fan, so I'm excited for you to check
we'll
that
see.
one
I
out.
didn't get that.
All right.
Shut up, Siri. All right, guys.
Peace.
Peace out.